This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What a day. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live as always in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Got a great 2 hours on deck for you. The day already off to a good start after, and granted, it's only round one, long way to go here, but we talked about shooting low at the 3M Open. Scottie Scheffler being a prohibitive favorite the way he was. Well, he's already shot 6 under for the day. His first round is done, and he is tied for the co-lead right now.
Yeah, you're very happy about this.
I am relieved.
Even though,
I wanted him to get off to a good start.
It means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, so I'm happy for you.
Good start. For somebody who has had bad starts throughout the course of this PGA Tour season and then closed but had just not quite enough, I am happy as somebody who did the chalky, ugly thing and putting bets on Scottie Scheffler. I have him outright in top 5 as we did in our best bets yesterday. I also am invested in Tom Kim, top 10, top 20. He, I believe, just started his round or is about to. So no clue where that's going to end, where things sit right now. But we have a 4-way tie atop the leaderboard right now at the 3M Open out there in Minnesota. So we'll keep tabs on that throughout the course of the day. And we've got some Major League Baseball in action right now. Boy, San Diego just making life hard on me day in and day out right now. Down 5-3 in the bottom of 6 to the Braves right now.
War in the Buonantony-Norman household. But even more importantly, we just had an immaculate inning out in Cleveland. How about this? Gavin Williams, 3 hitters, 3 up, 3 down on 3 pitches each. So strikes all 3 of them out. An immaculate inning for Williams. It gets through the top of the 4th inning against the Minnesota Twins. Still scoreless in the bottom of the 4th inning. I feel like we should be more impressed with something like that. So I wanted to mention that.
Love it. Yeah, but as you said, scoreless right now. Maybe we can discuss that a little bit when Jensen Lewis joins the program. Of course, co-host of VSiN by the Books, former MLB pitcher. Get the lowdown on the rest of the slate today. Slow day in Major League Baseball. We've got the 2 games in action, just 3 more coming up later today, including one that will have first pitch while we're on the air with the Rays and Blue Jays. We will preview it all, but so much more we need to get to as well. So let's set the table like we always do.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
Well, JPT, as talking season rolls on, we've talked a lot about the SEC the last couple of days, but how about the old American kids? Give the G6 some love today. The American Athletic Conference had a great season a year ago. Tulane makes the college football playoff. 3 teams that ended the year in the AP top 25. This season, though, a lot of change, 5 new head coaches, a lot of roster turnover, and we're going to preview it all.
Yeah, and there's some depth to this conference, I think, in the sense that one of these teams in the range of about 25-1, I think, actually might be worth betting. So we'll discuss that, who that team is, and why that would be the case. But looks like a fun conference, again, with a really strong team at the top in Navy with a good amount of returning production.
I made that headline after, Kenny Chesney's just been in mind lately.
I don't know what that means.
What? That's like one of his most famous songs. I'm just so proud of that one.
Producer Justin, while you were gone, you ran off to the restroom before the show started, came in here and said, do you know what she means by American kids?
So you didn't know either, Justin?
No.
Oh, he's shaking his head no at me. Come on, guys. I was really proud of that one. Meanwhile,
Trying to copy my flow, you just can't.
That's not what I want to copy. A more obvious one, though. We have continued our NFL training camp tour. We're going camping once again today. This time around, though, making a pit stop in Miami, taking on the Dolphins for our season-long preview. We're also going to talk some NFL win totals at large with a handful of the teams that have already got their training camps or rookies reporting.
Miami Dolphins are an interesting team, written up by yours truly in the NFL betting guide up at VSiN.com. Part of the package you can get. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Check it out now. A team that is rebuilding, kind of diet Green Bay in a sense. We'll talk about some of the details of why that is, including, of course, their projected starting quarterback. But faced with a daunting schedule in the NFL, them and the Arizona Cardinals. But we're talking about Miami today. Not a lot of hope, it would seem, for the Miami Dolphins this season.
Yep, second lowest win total behind only the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals.
And one VSiN host loves them over their win total.
We may or may not be having his co-host on the show today.
Why'd you ruin it?
We'll kick things off here. Some people might not know. Some people might not know.
That's what they find out.
Some people might not
It's called
know.
a tease.
We will start things out, though, back to Major League Baseball because all good things come to an end. The Red Sox yesterday tied that franchise record we were talking so much about. 15 straight wins, goes back to 1946. But Game 2 of the doubleheader didn't go their way against Baltimore. They fall 5-1. The streak comes to a close. They do, however, join the 1916 Giants, New York Giants, though, that is, in baseball, as the only teams to ever win 15 straight games after entering the streak with at least 10 games under 500. They were 11 under 500, but now still 20-3 since June 25th. They've put themselves in a position to compete not only for a playoff spot, but as you hear from interim manager Chad Tracy, maybe the division as well.
We just won 15 games in a row, and I think all of us knew that that's going to end at some point. It just happened to end tonight, so they're already refocused. I wanted to go in and talk to the team, and Sonny and Wilson were already handling it. I'll leave that message for in there. The focus is there now on, that's behind us, and the big thing is if we continue to play baseball that way, regardless of how many wins in a row, we're going to win a heck of a lot more than we lose. So that's the focus now. But no, I think everybody knew it's going to end at some point. It happened to end tonight, and now we got to refocus.
In an odd way, does that sort of take a little bit of pressure off to not have the streak going?
Not necessarily. I think they were riding the wave, enjoying it, and feeding off the fans. But I think the big thing is knowing we're going to come in here Friday night and those fans are going to be there and they're going to be just as amped up, because we've put ourselves in a playoff race now, for, not only for a wild card but a chance at a division. So that's got to be the focus moving forward.
The day before the streak started, JVT Boston was 32-46. They were trailing by 15.5 games in the American League East, 6th in the wild card standings. Now 7 back of the Rays, 3rd in the wild card spot, and have a 2-game cushion over the Mariners. So what did you make about that last comment, though, he said about the division?
I mean, I think realistically, you're looking at this and saying potentially that's 7 games. It's going to be hard. The Tampa Bay Rays are at least maintaining. They've won 3 straight now, so they're kind of evening out. 2.5 games over the New York Yankees. I think it's a little hard to make up 7 games, but it's not impossible. We've seen teams in the past do it. So you've really got to be on your P's and Q's from a production standpoint and win some of these games. We'll see. I think so. You referenced the winning streak that they were on. Obviously, that's the big story. You go back a little bit further and talk about some of the other points of demarcation when you talk about this run for Boston. I personally keep going back to June 19th, only because that followed a 4-game sweep at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays, or excuse me, 3-game sweep at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays and a 4-game losing streak. And that was the last time they had lost more than 2 games consecutively. And since that run, obviously, or since that loss, they've been on this run, including the winning streak that just ended. But I keep bringing that up because it's a little bit of a larger sample size. And I think what you're most excited about here for Boston is hopefully they become buyers at the trade deadline. We could talk about this winning streak that they're on, but I will reiterate, if you look at them over the larger course, so June 19th, again, the sample size that I'm using, you're still talking about a team that's 14th in weighted runs created plus over that stretch. You're still talking about a group that's in the middle of the pack in terms of power, average, things like that, floating around 15th to 17th. Well, that's all fine. You've been very reliant on your pitching throughout this entire run, and you hope that this means that they're going to invest in some hitting now maybe at the trade deadline as move forward.
Yeah, that's something we'll definitely ask Jensen Lewis about when he joins us later on this hour. Not only the Red Sox, but just teams in general that he expects to be buyers or sellers around that August 3rd deadline. It'll be here before you know it. Also, wanted to talk a little WNBA here off the top because we were questioning what we might get from Napheesa Collier yesterday, who made her season debut back with the Minnesota Lynx. Back-to-back years, she's been the MVP runner-up in the W. And, okay, what's the minutes restriction going to look like? Do we look under on her points total? Well, she had a double-double, 24 points, 10 boards, and assists, a steal in 22 minutes, and ends up helping lead this team to a double-digit win on a day that Olivia Miles and their other stars didn't have their best day.
Yeah, only 22 minutes, like you said. And, it looked like maybe something we had brought up yesterday, which was, hey, do they just start running stuff for her because they want to get her a little bit more comfortable? And sure enough, 20 shot attempts in 22 minutes, they were out there trying to get something done with her. And I think it just speaks to, again, you put this in the notes of how scared the rest of the league should be. We had hit on this a ton. You're talking about a team that clearly has the best rookie right now playing basketball, maybe one of the best players currently playing in the WNBA, and they're going to add one of the best two-way players there coming in. That's going to be a force for Minnesota, and maybe everybody's playing for second if they can vibe together. I don't think you're sending up the signal flares, the red flag, but it is somewhat interesting that the day Collier comes back, Miles only gets 13 on 15 shooting, and you do wonder how that dynamic's going to work out. But I generally think they'll probably fit pretty well together, but not really great when we were asking that question, and then they get together on the floor, and all of a sudden the inefficient Olivia Miles shows up. But I would assume that they're going to be able to get it together.
Small sample. That said, if they do end up performing at the rate we know talent-wise they're capable of, plus 140 title favorites already, and you imagine that number could just get shorter if they continue to play this way.
And as you noted here in the rundown, too, I mean, what did we talk about yesterday? They had failed to cover 8 straight games going into it yesterday. Lost by the hook there. They were 10.5-point favorites. They ended up winning by 10. So market's just a skosh high on this Minnesota team as they have now failed to cover 9 consecutive games.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark yesterday, another technical, her second in as many games. And if she gets one more, that's going to be a 1-game suspension. I know when she had been asked about if she needs to play a little bit differently earlier this week, she said no, changed her tune a little bit yesterday because the way that the rules work in the WNBA, right? You have 8 of them. That's a 1-game suspension. Yeah. After that, every 2, it's another 1-game suspension. So she's on the brink of it as we enter All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, so we talk about officiating, especially people who really watch the WNBA, able to bring this up to you all the time, that officiating has to be better, that it's absolute dog doo-doo at this point when you're talking about the quality of officiating that you're getting. I think this speaks to that. I mean, to get a technical for just looking at a player and pointing up and saying scoreboard while they're chirping is absolute insanity. Yeah, let them talk. Nothing is happening. Again, we talk about just how bad these officials can be, and I think that's part of it. And by the way, it's one of the more classic trash-talking moments.
For sure.
Like, it's what you're supposed to do, especially when you're down like that. Like, come on. What are we doing here? Focus on something more important.
I get it if we're overdoing it and we're in somebody's face, but, like, come on. That's, like, the best insult that you can give to somebody.
Also,
do want to give out Tyler Shoemaker some props for that one because he said in his analytics numbers that he puts together that the Fever could win big. They were, what was it, like 10.5, 11.5-point favorites. He had them as 16 in his write-up on VSiN.com. Clark, by the way, ends up with 28 and 11. It was a Fever franchise record for points in the win. They win and cover. We got to step aside first time out today on Money Moves, but when we come back, our Money Moves college football top 25 reveal rolls on today. We got 2 more teams to break down in depth.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Money Moves College Football Top 25 Rankings.
Yes, it is. As we welcome you back here to Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you today, breaking down the number 13 and 12 ranked teams in our Money Move College Football Top 25. Coming in at number 13, Texas Tech, a team that we have talked about a lot more than I expected to this offseason with all of the Brendan Sorsby business going on. But we have moved on from that. Will Hammond is QB1 coming off of the ACL, and high expectations again for what is a high-dollar program. They are the reigning champs in the Big 12 JVT, which I thought this was fun. Marked the program's first outright conference title since 1955 when they were in the Border Intercollegiate Athletic Association. They're an odds-on favorite now to repeat, bet down to minus 105. Only Miami, a larger preseason conference favorite in college football.
Yep. So I think obviously we know what's going on in the quarterback position and what happened with Sorsby, whatnot. The large expectation for many is that they'll be okay with Will Hammond, right? I mean, maybe not not as dynamic with Sorsby, but still something there. That to me is the ultimate question. If you remember last year, you had the Orange Bowl, correct?
Yep.
You were there. One of our disagreements was I didn't like this Texas Tech offense. If you had watched them, and then if you looked at the numbers, they were a team that was very reliant on generating explosive plays. You look at some of the numbers for them last year to reiterate for audience. They were in the 79th percentile in pass explosive play rate, but in terms of expected points added per play, in terms of their passing game, they were the 43rd percentile. So they were not as successful on a down-to-down basis when they were talking about it through the air. Success rate in general, they were 78th. So when you were a team that was really reliant on generating big plays downfield, when you played a defensive level of Oregon that could limit those explosives, what happened? Offense just got completely constipated. It did nothing. That, to me, is going to be the big question. Are you going to be more efficient down to down? Are you going to be able to move the ball with some consistency? You do like the stable of running backs, but still, again, last year, Stormy, even when running the ball last year, they were 107th in expected points added per play when running the football. They weren't really that efficient. To me, that's the word here that I'm waiting for Texas Tech. Will they be more efficient? I think it's all good enough to win the Big 12. I don't think I'm questioning their role as the favorite. But I asked you this question about the Jaguars yesterday when it came to, okay, how high are you in the sense of winning it all? To me, that's where I draw the line, I feel like, with Texas Tech until I see it. Can they win it all? I have my doubts considering I don't know if this offense is going to be more efficient down to down than they were last year.
Well, I'll say, if you're Texas Tech, that's a good thing that you're asking, can they win it all in terms of the national championship, that you're even having that conversation. That's the way that the light that we're having the discussion around Texas Tech, not even just in the Big 12, but in the larger context of college football. What I'll say about Will Hammond specifically is Joey McGuire has said repeatedly throughout this offseason that had Will Hammond not gotten injured at the back end of last year, that they wouldn't have gone into the transfer portal anyways and gotten someone else. So there is a belief internally in what he'll be able to do. Defense, we know, was one of the best in the country last year. They did lose some big names, namely David Bailey, Lee Hunter, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Jacob Rodriguez as well, but still return 155 starts on that side of the ball, 64% returning production, which is the most of anybody else in the league. As far as the league stuff goes and some of these other things, win total sitting 10.5. It's juice minus 200 to the over. What is the bet to be made on this team? I'll go through the schedule with you real quickly because I think this is a reason if you want to buy in on Texas Tech, right? They don't play any of the next three favorites in the league behind them. No BYU, no Utah, no Kansas State on this schedule. Non-con games are against Abilene Christian and Oregon State right off the top at the beginning of the season. And Sam Houston to help ease into this schedule at large. Only one of their first 5 games are against bowl teams from last year. A tough one on a Friday night against Houston. And ASU in October was a lone team they lost to a year ago, but that's a very different team as well with Sam Leavitt gone. And again, you get them at home this time around.
Yeah, I think, so to answer the question, I think the bet to make actually is to win the Big 12. I mean, because even if we're talking about minus 105, somewhere in that range, when they get to the Big 12 championship game, should you be correct about making that wager, they're going to be a bigger favorite, one would assume, than just minus 105 on a money line because that would mean they're a small dog. Or at best, they pick them at a book that's dealing that for that game, which maybe they are. Whole point you're being is you'll be sitting on minus 105 with the ability to move off of it should they get to the Big 12 championship game. So it seems to me like that's it. Like, over 10.5 minus 200, if you want to do away with that, you laid out the schedule pretty nicely. They seem to be good enough here, given what's in front of them, that they're going to be able to make this Big 12 championship game. And so a minus 105 bet on them to win the Big 12 is a wager that they're getting there, and then you could do something with it should you so choose. Yeah,
they actually, and we do have odds for what it is to make the Big 12 championship game. Guess how much faith the market has in them?
I mean, there's a minus 200 for over 10.5, and they're minus 105 to win it. I would assume it's like, I don't know, like minus 180?
Minus 220.
Minus 220, okay.
Yeah, so pretty heavy favorites from that standpoint. Okay, let's go to number 12 on our list as the top 25 rolls on. The Alabama Crimson Tide. Sky-high expectations from Tide fans, I think fair to say, in year 3 under Kalen DeBoer. While they didn't win it, did make the SEC title game a year ago, got revenge against Oklahoma in the first round of the playoffs, end up losing to eventual national champion Indiana in the Rose Bowl. This season, fair to say, a bit of a reset. Alabama has an ongoing quarterback competition entering this year, lost a chunk of good talent around the quarterback as well, 4 offensive linemen, several receivers, best tight end, running back, and face a schedule that presents several potential speed bumps as well. That said, we played the clip, maybe not last, was it 2 weeks ago, from Phil Steele on Tim Murray's college football betting podcast, where he said that Alabama was a surprise team in his mind this year, has very high expectations for them. Do you agree?
I do. So I'm done with kind of the top portion of the SEC for the most part in the college football preview guide. And one of the burning questions that I had is this team a national championship contender? And my short answer is yes. Now, I think it does depend on if Keelan Russell hits. That's obviously a really big deal. And the assumption is that he is going to win the job. We will see if that actually comes to fruition. But a lot of the questions you have for this team are on the offensive side. Defensively, though, 7 starters are back from one of the better units in college football. So I think you're kind of trusting that Alabama's going to be pretty good. They were 29th in opponent EPA per play. They were 25th in success rate. They actually, you could argue, got somewhat unlucky. They were in the 91st percentile in early down expected points added per play by opponents, but they were in the 51st percentile in late down success rate. So they played well in the early downs, held opponents to long third downs, but then ultimately kind of buckled in those situations. That's putting it very simply. So if you can kind of lock up a little bit bit more on some of these late down situations and then really put out some of the similar statistical production that you did a season ago on defense. I trust that side of the ball. Really, it comes down to is, are they going to be able to run the ball this year? They were awful on the ground. They became a one-dimensional passing attack with Ty Simpson back there. They averaged just 3.4 yards per carry, 104 rush yards per game. They were 132nd on the ground in success rate. Those things have to change if that is going to be an offense that is going to have some balance and be the caliber of a team that can win a national championship.
Something I found interesting going back historically on Alabama, the win total sitting at 8.5, right? Even money to the over, minus 120 on the under here. Should they go under that number, it would be the Tide's worst record since Nick Saban's first year in Tuscaloosa. They have not been held under the 9-win mark since 2007. And I know people have been critical about Kalen DeBoer's first couple of years. He has like the same exact mark that Nick Saban had his first 2 years. So give him some credit. I know there are high expectations in a place like Tuscaloosa, but he's trying to right the ship. And now the question, as you mentioned off the top, is what's going to happen with the quarterback competition. He was on McElroy and Kubelik yesterday as a part of SEC Media Days, had this to say about where they stand.
We are so good. Everybody makes a big deal out of being able to beat us. I don't mean they're better than us, and it doesn't mean that just because you win the championship that you have a better conference. It just means you have one better team. We had 5 teams in the playoffs last year. I think we'll have that many teams in the playoffs again. They have to play each other. And it's a special thing with a special team who has things go their way.
So that obviously was not the sound that I was pulling for. But Nick Saban was asked about the Big Ten dominance the last couple of years, winning the national championship, SEC being held out, clearly voicing his opinion on where that sits right now. But as for Alabama, what he was going to say about the quarterback competition is that they don't have a decision made yet. He would love to have that decided now, but where things sit going into fall camp, they're going to split reps and see if anybody pulls ahead. Ty Simpson obviously did that a year ago. Can one of them? Russell is your short. I mean, he's 28-1 right now to win the Heisman, so the expectation is that the 5-star guy with all of the hype is going to ultimately win the job, but who knows?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, when you have a situation like this, because it's either going to be Russell or
Austin Mack.
Austin Mack, who's been part of the program and is, like you're there, you're a senior. We know what you are. We know what this quarterback competition is. You're hoping that Russell's going to come out here and do something for you and win the job. So I think that's the best. And what you really want, too, is Russell seems to be a little bit more dynamic as an athlete. And so if you can add some of that dual threat to your offense, that does help your running game, obviously. It does help your offensive line, who does have some young guys starting, especially along the interior. So that, to me, is going to be the expectation. The question is, will he just be able to hit? Because if he does, then it's almost like a ball rolling down a hill and everything else kind of fixes itself to an extent afterward.
He's an athletic freak of nature.
Yeah.
He is, when he's on the field, he's going to be the most athletic player on the field, not just quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. That's what he does. In Texas high school football, 42-1, was the -- 1 overall recruit in the country when he came out last year. And I do think having a full off season of being able to learn under Kalen DeBoer, last full season, and then this off season getting to learn under Kalen DeBoer and take those steps that maybe he'll be ready and prepared. Austin Mack just has that experience with DeBoer going back to Washington, so he really, really gets the system and what he wants to do. Reminder, we talked about the college football betting guide. Obviously, you wrote up the SEC, the Mountain West. The guide will be out next week. If you go to vsin.com/subscribe right now, you get unlimited access to everything we do here at the network, as well as the guide. $175 right now for our football season special, which is going to end soon. Get in there.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hey, don't look now. Pod Squad coming back, only down 1, top of the 8th against the Braves. Can they do it? Plus 750 on the money line if you think so. We already had an immaculate inning as well in Twins Guardians. Speaking of Cleveland, that is where our next guest resides as we welcome in Jensen Lewis here on the Progressive Guest Line, former MLB pitcher, of course, co-host with our buddy Dave Ross each and every weekday morning here on VSiN by the books, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. What's going on, friend? How are you?
I'm not happy with the Padres coming back. I laid the 1.5 with Atlanta. I thought we were home free with Drake Baldwin there at the homers, so we're going to need a little bottom of the 8th magic here. I would assume with your fervor there, Stormy, that do you have Padres plus 1.5 for money line right now?
I do not, but I am a Padres fan. I lived in San Diego for a number of years. I've been to more games at Petco than any other park, so I root for them. Although this is a tough one because my husband's a Braves fan, Jensen. So this week, he's just been dogging me left and right. It's terrible.
A house divided for sure. Tough year for your Padres, too. They will be very active at the deadline, but very intrigued to kind of see whether they both buy and sell, or kind of how A.J. Preller does some wheeling and dealing here in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, actually, can we go down that road real quickly? Because I know your boy Dave Ross specifically has been trying to make that pitch to you of could that be a team that could maybe get back to form here the second half of the season? What's your gut tell you?
Well, it has to start with the offense, and that was kind of my plea to him. If we want to be able to back them, could we get this version of Fernando Tatis Jr. that we're seeing here the last week or so? Obviously, with what Ty France has done, I think he is in a win-win situation where if San Diego does not get it together here the next couple of weeks, then he's probably going to get traded as one of those rental and platoon power bats that has really come on strong. Jackson Merrill's actually been a lot better here the last week or so, but I'm kind of fascinated to see just a couple of games out of the wild card here on both the National League and the American League side here, Stormy. It really feels from people I've spoken with that a lot of GMs are going to give their teams the maximum runway to get maybe to a day or two before the deadline, and then they'll ultimately make that decision about whether to be buyers or sellers. San Diego 3 games out. I mean, this would be a huge split against the Braves if they're able to come back and win this one for sure.
All right, let's talk about a team that is flailing as well and maybe regressing a bit that many of us expected. The Cardinals went out to Anaheim. Their offense got blanked, although they did take a win to end the series, Jensen, and now they're in action today against the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team I believe they've already faced here at this portion of the second half. So what are we doing with St. Louis? Is this offensive struggle going to continue, and how do we play it?
Yeah, it feels like an under here to me, JVT. This has come down from 8.5. I'm seeing a lot of 7.5s around. I would have to want to buy up, though, to get the half run of cushion. I would only play this under 8, and it's probably going to be a decently expensive juice there to be able to find that. If you are willing to buy, then we've got two teams that are really trending in an under direction here. Last 10 games as a visiting team, Arizona has hit the under in 7 of those, as has the Cardinals in their last 10 home games. 7 of those have gone under the total as well. Brandon Pfaadt is going to get the ball for Arizona later on tonight. 8 straight starts, guys, allowing 2 runs or fewer. He has really been dominant in these last couple of months. And then, the Cardinals offense you talk about, JVT, 3 runs or fewer scored in 5 of their last 7 games overall. And I'm sure you saw plenty of the Angels series. It really was kind of a masterclass in where the Angels were able to limit what has otherwise been a pretty startling offense from a production standpoint. Of course, J.J. Weatherholt and Jordan Walker leading the charge there, along with Alec Burleson. But I would anticipate these two teams kind of follow that recent form, and it's a lower scoring game here tonight for sure.
VSiN by the Books host Jensen Lewis joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, former MLB pitcher. It's a short slate today in Major League Baseball, but I know another game that you had eyes on was this Royals-Tigers matchup as they open up a 4-game set out there in Motown. Kansas City, for the struggles that they have had throughout the course of the season, coming out of the break pretty nicely here, winning 5 of 6, just swept the Giants. How did they fare today in Detroit?
Yeah, definitely stepping up in weight class for sure, Stormy. And you get a Tiger team now that is really swinging the bat, I think, more as the way they anticipated at the beginning of the year, albeit the Cubs did handle them there on the north side in this past series. The matchup kind of screams some value on the run line for me in a couple of ways. First of all, no Bobby Witt Jr. now in this lineup for the foreseeable future due to being on the injured list and kind of the reshuffling there for Matt Quatraro and where he wants some lineup construction. Kansas City is a little underwater covering the run line this year as a road underdog. They're 14-17 in that regard. And then looking at Tarek Skubal on the mound tonight, of course, don't really want anything to do with a money line that expensive. But knowing that it's a shorter price for the run line, I'm probably getting home on at least a couple of units, if not 2.5 here. And I like more the recency bias of where the Tigers in Skubal starts. The last 3 times he's gone out and won, each of those starts, the Tigers have won it by multiple runs. And they've had at least 6 or more runs scored in all 3 of those winning starts. I believe it's the last 3 of 4 that he's gone out there and they've won. That's been the case. In his last 19 innings, guys, against Kansas City, Tarek Skubal has allowed just 2 runs total. So take Bobby Witt Jr. away, their primary offensive source every night. I think we're in a really good spot here to take advantage of a beleaguered Kansas City offense.
All right, so we're in the dog days of summer. Guys get angry, tempers flare. We also get stupid beefs at times as well. And the latest would be with the pitch clock in the New York Yankees, specifically Jose Caballero. So what's going on here? He gets caught with a violation with the 8-second rule. How are we handling this? What the hell is going on?
But it also wasn't a violation, so...
Yeah, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, so the rule, guys, you have to be alert to the pitcher with 8 seconds on the pitch clock, meaning that your concentration, your head up and towards that pitcher in that direction. And Caballero has been a little bit of gamesmanship on a few guys and has really kind of pressed his luck. And some home plate umpires have kind of caught on to it a little bit. And the foray you kind of saw where tempers flared there and some of the hot mics picked up some of the back and forth. Make no mistake, this is part of trying to get pitchers out of rhythm and forcing them to kind of speed up. And I know people will say, well, 8 seconds should be plenty of time to be able to come set and be able to deliver a pitch. But it's more of kind of the mind games. And I can understand both sides here. First and foremost, if Caballero were to do that to me, I would be drilling him with the next pitch. Like, if you want to play games, you're going to have consequences. Make no mistake about it. We can end this really, really quickly. And if he wants to charge the mound, we'll go and handle it like men. But I think enough's enough for some of these guys. And that's kind of where you saw some of the frustrations boil over.
I love hearing that from the mind of a brain like yours who's been on the mound and had those situations with guys. Obviously, it's unique now with the pitch clock, but for the instance specifically yesterday, he did look up at 9 seconds when he took that last strike. And then you hear after the game is over with the umpire, Adrian Johnson, saying, quote, he's been warned all season. We were instructed not to warn him. We were instructed to violate him. That's what it is. It's a violation. Whoa. And so I know as a pitcher, it's annoying. From an umpire perspective, it's annoying, but can the league just change rules and the way that they want to view this thing without telling any teams that?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think Aaron Boone kind of echoing those sentiments, Stormy, too, in the press conference and saying, well, they didn't tell us that was the case. Like, your double secret probation for Jose Caballero here, not being able to be alert to the pitcher. So something's going to have to give, because it also sounds like when you listen to Caballero, he's already had at least a conversation, if not multiple ones, with the league office. And I would imagine that this is going to have some keen eyes here moving forward. For what it's worth, guys, he's kind of a key piece for them right now, playing shortstop and being a utility guy, being able to fill different roles for where they are right now. So they can't afford a suspension. They don't really have anywhere else to go right now. But he is certainly an igniter, and you need a guy or two with some edge like that. But you also have to really toe the line and make sure that you're doing it the right way.
All right, last 90 with you. I think the Red Sox have officially thrown themselves into the ring of buyers at the trade deadline. I would hope they're going to go help out their offense, Jensen. But who are some of these other teams we should be looking out for and maybe sniping some futures early before they start to acquire pieces?
Yeah, I think the Diamondbacks are in a unique position here, JVT, because they are a team that when the offense is right, and they still have yet to get Geraldo Perdomo going, they could be in a great spot. Now, their pitching has left a lot to be desired. Will they be in on it or not? They could be buyers and sellers here. If I'm looking at a plus money price, I still like the Pittsburgh Pirates, guys, at plus $1.80. I still think that's an incredible value with one of the best scoring offenses. That front office, not known to be buyers at the deadline. I think they are forced into that now, knowing it's a finite amount of time with Paul Skeens. So I actually really kind of like where they're at plus $1.80 to make the playoffs.
Jensen, you're the man. Thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate your time, buddy.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Jensen Lewis, again, make sure you check him out each and every weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on VSiN. VSiN by the books alongside Dave Ross. What do you think about the Pirates?
I mean, I think from the beginning of the season, we've kind of been in on the upside is there.
Yeah.
And I think they're a team that, I'm always a proponent of going for it. Like you should, especially when you have the pitching staff that you do. And we know that there's more to come from Paul Skeens, given the underlying metrics. So, yeah, go for it.
Curious if the Padres will go for it.
No, they've got nothing to live
It's
for.
so bad. It's so bad.
But the NL race, like you said,
Yeah.
the NL wildcard race is
very interesting.
Dreck, as some would say.
It's going to be fun here as
Look
the
at
second
that.
half
It's
rolls
disgusting.
on. Okay, you hear the music. We got to step aside real quickly.
I don't see the Padres up there, though.
Why you got to do me like that? We'll be back. Move it on from baseball. Thank the Lord above. NFL coming up next.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. The NFL regular season might not officially open up until September 9th, but training camps are underway. With that in mind, thought it would be a fun exercise to look at some of the teams with players already having reported or reporting today, look at some of their season win totals, gridiron Goldilocks style. But instead of like Goldilocks rating the temperature of porridge, we're going to be looking at season win totals here. Is it too high? I'm so glad you explained that. Too low or just right, okay? And I wanted to start this exercise.
Is Goldilocks one that gets eaten by the wolf? You have to talk. You can't just sit there in silence.
I thought that was a different story.
You're really questioning this? Yes, of course I know it's Red Riding Hood. I got both of you that well. You were really that confused? Yeah.
You're concerned about me? What were you concerned about me for?
That really stumped you, huh?
Well, I was trying to think if it was just bears or if there was more to that story.
Sometimes I pride myself in throwing a stick in the spokes of your bicycle. That was like a full frontal.
I couldn't think of the name of Little Red Riding Hood. Although my B. What are you going to do? Can you just let me get on to the exercise?
Bryce Young returns for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, the reason that I wanted to do the Panthers first was because we got some news today about Nick Squirton, who their stud linebacker that they grabbed last year in the draft from Texas A&M, had high expectations for him to take a step this year, suffered what looked to be, I guess, a really bad knee injury today and had to be carted off the field at camp, tears in his eyes, all of that stuff. And defense is where I know my biggest questions were at when we did our Carolina Panthers breakdown the other day for the NFL training camp tour. In terms of their win total, 7.5 plus 115 to the over, minus 136 to the over. But when you look at the 7.5, too high, too low, or just right?
I'd say just right to maybe too high. As I've said 1,000 times, I like the way that they've invested in this defense. I just feel like the offense has a pretty firm ceiling. Now, I think the ceiling is average, so I think that's relatively good. But as somebody who thinks the Falcons are better than what the market believes they are, as somebody who's kind of we'll talk more about this when we get to them as part of our training camp tour, but it's I'm kind of lukewarm on the thought of the Saints being better. I kind of get it at the very least. I just don't know if they're dynamic and explosive enough on offense. They're steady and they're okay, but I think that's ultimately something that holds them back, especially when you look at the schedule for them. I mean, I can foresee this being pretty ugly pretty quick for Carolina, I think, if things go wrong for them, especially on offense.
It is the third most difficult schedule on paper based on opponent win total this year. Let's go to the Cleveland Browns, 5-12 last year. Sorry, Browns fans, to bring it up, but held out of the playoffs for the 21st time in the last 23 years. Fired the guy that actually helped them get to the postseason, Kevin Stefanski. So Todd Monken steps in now. Deshaun Watson favored to be your week one QB1. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Also sold off your best player on defense. All that to say, lots of optimism for the future. What can that mean for this year, though? Looking at the win total, 5.5, too high, too low, or just right?
Don't ask me. One of the two of us has a win total bet on this team, and it's not me.
I do not like this team.
Okay.
At all. But I went from the 6.5 rate. We're down to 5.5 now, so I don't have as much interest in where this thing has fallen to. I did lay the juice on the under 6.5. I like a lot about what this team could be, but they're not that right now. And I don't know about you. The last however many times we've seen Deshaun Watson, we've had one half of good football in that time. It's been years. It's been years since he's shown us anything, so I don't know why this year would tell you any different.
Yeah, I understand the thought process for you. I just wonder, look, I think they're an above-average defense. I think it's fair, even with the loss of Myles Garrett. I think they're going to be an above-average group. Closer to average than to the top without Garrett, but still, I think that's a fair assessment of what they are defensively. So let's just assume that you're going to get above-average production from that group. I'm not going to say what if 2020 Deshaun Watson shows up, but what if a better version of Deshaun Watson shows up? And all of a sudden you get a defense that is being actually helped out by an offense that's not 32nd in efficiency, absolutely dreadful at the quarterback position, turning the ball over, putting you in position where you're not going to be able to, have to defend short fields. I think I'll put it that way. In an AFC North that, how I feel about the Steelers. What if this isn't going to get fixed with the Baltimore Ravens, especially on defense? What if they're another average team in that regard as well, and they're a little bit worse than we believe they are? I don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to go run to bet the over. I'll put it this way. I think your win total might be more of a sweat than you want it to be.
Okay. I think 6 feels about right.
Sure.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they lose more. But with this coming down to 5.5, it would be a stay away, I think.
Sure.
How about the Las Vegas Raiders? 14 losses last year, tied for their most in franchise history, but helps you earn the number 1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza, who, by the way, officially signed his rookie contract this morning with rookies reporting here in Vegas.
$50 million, huh?
Just a little change in the pocket. Kirk Cousins, also the vet in the room. They, like the Browns, though, also missed the playoffs 21 of the last 23 years. Win total 5.5. Juice to the over, though, -146. When you look at that number, like 6 wins, too high, too low, or just right?
I feel like it's just right. I think that's what they can achieve. I would lean a little over. The price is what gets me at -145, so I would stay away. But, look, I like Kubiak. I like the offense overall. You do like the fact that Kirk Cousins is moving farther away from this Achilles injury, so he's going to be able to do a lot of the things that he's going to be asked to do in an offense like this as well. When it comes to just handing the ball off and the mobility to an extent you have to have in a zone running scheme like this. I like what they added on defense a ton. You don't really like the Nakobe Dean noise coming in from the mandatory mini camps, but outside of that, you like a lot of what they've added in the shift to this defensive scheme. So I think they're heading in the right direction. And maybe I'm just more pro Raiders in the sense of I just kind of like that they're clearly showing a 2026 mindset in terms of the way they're building this roster and not going with the old guys, right? I'm an ageist, but I do believe that's the case. So to me, it would actually be over. Again, actual price of -145, I think you can balk on that, but I think 6-7 wins is the likely outcome for the Raiders this year.
We'll stay in the AFC West, go to the Chargers coming up next, where we do have coordinator changes on both sides of the ball. Chris O'Leary takes over for Jesse Minter, who's now the head coach in Baltimore. Mike McDaniels replacing Greg Roman on offense. Among the tougher schedules in the league, but high expectations with the talent that they have. At 9.5, is that win total too high, too low, or just right? It is juiced to the over.
We're going over. I love the offensive staff for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they're going to be really good. I mean, again, we've talked about this a lot. We've seen guys who don't work out as head coaches that then go and as an offensive coordinator get back to their roles. Josh McDaniels is one of the better examples of that. Mike McDaniel, I think, is going to be one of those too. I think that this is going to be a really good offense with a really dynamic play caller. And even last year, again, while he failed as a head coach, he was still scheming up quite a bit. And a lot of the film nerds were showing a lot of good stuff from this team, for the Miami Dolphins, that is, that really showed some ingenuity that kept being provided by him. So I think that there is going to be a really good push from this offense to be a little bit more explosive, a little bit more dynamic, to finally kind of see the version of Justin Herbert we keep saying, we keep being told is there, right? He's great. You don't understand. He's one of the best quarterbacks. The on-field production hasn't been there from the stance of wins, but and the dynamic play of the offense really hasn't been there. And I think part of that has been held back by Harbaugh to an extent because he's a conservative dude. But I think this is going to look pretty good for the Chargers.
Well, I'll say, like, the regular season wins have been there. It's the postseason wins that haven't. So even though they haven't been able to win in the playoffs, 11 wins each of the last 2 seasons under John Harbaugh, offensive line play is really what held them back. You don't have Rashawn Slater the entire year. Joe Alt only plays a handful of games. If the offensive line is healthy, and that gives Justin, like, that with the combination of McDaniels, as you mentioned, I think could really change the game for the Chargers this season.
Herbert also, and we'll do like low-hanging fruit, mouth breather sports analysis really quickly in the sense of Herbert does just have to be better in the postseason. He's not been good. He's obviously lost all 3 postseason games. He's got 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That type of stuff has not been particularly great. So that's also part of my logic here too, is McDaniels should just help him out in that regard as well.
We are pro Cam Ward. How are we feeling about the Tennessee Titans win total at 6.5? Is Robert Saleh the right man for the job in year 2 with Ward? Franchise record tying streak of 4 straight seasons now with double-digit losses, and the win total indicates that's what we're going to get again. Sitting at 6.5. Is that number too high, too low, or just right?
Seems a little too high, I guess. I mean, if you're actually setting win totals, like a good season for the Titans feels like 7 wins, 7.7 wins, right? Maybe getting to 8. So maybe you can lay 6.5 or over -110 at 6.5. You just feel like there's not much margin for error for you if you're going in that direction. But I'm with you. I mean, I think you can get this done. And look at the first two of the first 3 weeks. There's winnable games against the Jets and the Giants to get off to a pretty decent start. I think the Colts are a vulnerable group, and there's some winnable games on this schedule overall for sure.
I think this is a team you want to look to more week to week as being able to cover some numbers, more so than necessarily thinking they're going to exceed expectations dramatically and win like 9+ games. That's just not what's in the cards. So I think that number seems just about right for where things are at right now. And if you're going to be betting games week to week, you might want to do it in contest form as well. Here at Circa, we're already hitting, for the time of year that it is, record numbers in both the Circa Million and Circa Survivor contests. And you don't have to live here to be a part of it all season long. Yes, you need to enter in person, but then Winner Circle Proxy can help you out the rest of the way. And we're giving away 2 awesome prize packages right right now that will put 2 lucky fans into the world's biggest football contest for free. 1 entry into Survivor, 1 into Circa Million. Both winners will also get a full season of Winner's Circle proxy service, as well as a VSiN studio tour. Come hang out with us, and a free month of VSiN Pro access. You do need to enter, however, by Sunday, August 2nd. If you want your chance to win, head over to winnerscircleproxy.com/VSiN to enter today. That's winnerscircleproxy.com/VSIN. We'll have a little bit more NFL talk later on in hour 2 of the program. Our training camp tour will roll on, covering the Miami Dolphins at length. But when we return, getting into a little college football talk, the American Athletic Conference has SEC Media Days kicking off today. Our thoughts on the conference at large next.